UnitedWeStart, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners in various topics. Join us every second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific time, which is 18 to 20 hours GMT. Join us. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Yes, hi, this is Detlev of Wake News Radio, Wake News TV here on our 2 days UnitedWeStart Roundtable discussion. Yes, we do this every second Saturday of a month, and this time it's July 14th. By the way, a national day, celebration day in France, because they chopped off the head of the king at the time. So that's what they are celebrating. Also, Freemasons were involved in that evil deed. All right. Anyways, yeah, let's have a look. We have our friends here with us for the topic of, discussing all the odd things currently happening in the world. And we've got Ellen. Hi, Ellen. Are you there?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, Detlev. You have myself, Alan James, and my colleague has just come on as well. Steve, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Just by the seat of my pants, lastminute.com. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Well done. Well done for coming in. You have myself, Alan James, and Stephen George from Open Your Mind Radio. We have a live show every Sunday at get the time right, 7 to 9 GMT. And you can get to us at oimradio.com. And we have a few things to talk about on United We Start Roundtable tonight, which is going to be very interesting and good to chat to you guys again. And another month down the road.
Yeah.
Steve, Steve, do you want to add anything to that regarding OIM or anything?
Just for anyone who's not aware of OIM, just to say that we have been going for about 8 years, and we have had many guests on from all walks of life with all levels of intelligence. Well, not so much intelligence, but information. I meant to say all levels of information, from health to vaccines to medical doctors and everybody in between. So yeah, a show not to be missed. As Alan said, 7 to 9 p.m. GMT on Sundays on oimradio.com.
Yeah, just to make things sure, it's not everywhere evening at the moment. Matt, it's morning for you, right? Matt?
Yes, it is. Hey, Detlev. Hi, everybody. Yeah, out here in Oregon, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's going to be a hot, sunny day here in Oregon. I'm glad to be here with you guys. My website is nwodor.com, nwodor.com. Head up there, click on the podcast archive page. It's a library of knowledge and information. I try to bring you the best from around the planet to inform you about the new old odor, health, and other subjects that are interesting, like the Mandela effect. So glad to be here. I think we're going to have a great discussion today.
Yeah, wonderful. And Matt, you're also a talent in music, so you just created a band, as I learned, and and you also are heavily involved in cutting wood later on, right?
Yeah. So I started a new band, 3 of us only so far, but it only takes 3 people to make a band, like ZZ Top or The Police. So we're getting better. We're learning more songs, and hopefully someday I can post some videos of us playing live at a concert or something. And then, I've got some yard work to do. We're going to cut down some trees later this afternoon after our show. But fun times.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and we've got Michael. Michael, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. My name is Michael. I'm a member of the Wake News team. And my approach towards things is that I want to analyze the phenomenon of today's world and today's society. And what I found out is that the way things are today and the difficulties we have today is because we do have a lack of spirituality. That we lost the connection to God and its spiritual structures. So I think that if we become aware that we are part of this universe and that we are interconnected with all beings, with animals, angels, plants, and even the minerals, and that we are not separated from them. So that is an aspect which I try to analyze it. And of course, I also look into the money system and people that want to control and lead the world astray through their own negative plans. And that's what we have to a little bit watch from time to time so it doesn't go astray.
Yeah, and Michael, you have a show within the Wake News TV program and radio program. That is when?
Yeah, that's every Tuesday, end of the month, every last Tuesday from 4 to 5 in German, however. Central
European time. Yeah, Alan, maybe you can add how can people participate in the chat room? Can you explain that?
Yeah, sure, no problem at all. Right, for people who want to jump into the chat room, they can go over to UnitedWeStart.org and click on the chat room option. And basically, you don't need to be a registered user. You just type in a username, whatever name you want to use, click on guest, and then press enter. And then basically that will bring you into the chat room. So very straightforward.
Wonderful. Yeah, we have this specific topic to talk about what is happening in the world currently, and there are some odd things happening. Maybe because Alan actually proposed to talk about specific issues. Why don't you start, Alan, and to introduce us into today's topic?
Yeah. Okay. Right. What we've been noticing over the last few years, but definitely this year, and there's an awful lot of talk about it over the internet, is the energies hitting the planet, and people feeling different symptoms. Some people feeling down, depressed, for whatever reason. Other people feeling elated. Other people feeling tingling or buzzing sensations, ringing in the ears. Some people can't sleep. Some people are really tired. Some people have more energy. So there's a lot of things going on, and the kind of buzz around the internet and what a lot of people are talking about, I'm not a fan of channeled information because, I just like more of direct links where people link directly rather than do channeling. Because channeling can be manipulated. Without going into too much detail. And but there's a lot of talk out there about the energies hitting the planet and affecting people all different ways. Now, on OIM, myself and Steve have had guests on, and now there's about 5 different people we've come across that have said that there's only a small percentage of people on the planet who are organic, and the rest are synthetic or clones. And what you're seeing at the moment is a lot more people who are dying, a lot more people who are being affected by these energies because they're not organic. So the vibration that's coming in, there's been loads of reports of human frequencies, the human frequency going up. And it's affecting people who are not vibrating on that frequency, your consciousness level. Also, I'm trying to think of the chap. Secure Team 10 reported there was a massive explosion in a universe that's near us. And this energy wave that's happened is actually apparently on its way to hit the Earth. Now, there's an awful lot of talk on the internet as well regarding the 31st of July. Now, I don't like giving out dates. So we're only going to treat this as entertainment value and speculation, because over the 8 years we've been running OIM radio, dates have come and gone. Loads of people, and this is not fear porn or doom and gloom or anything like that, because we don't buy into that stuff. This is just a conversation about possibly what people are talking about there and what possibly might happen if anything does. Chances are nothing will happen because it never does. But there is a lot of speculation and talk about the 31st of July. Now, one person said that we're in a number of waves. We've just come out of the 6th wave, the 7 waves altogether. We've just come out of the 6th wave. We are actually in a holding pattern at the moment, and the 7th wave will be activated on the 7th of the 7th wave will be activated on the 31st of July. And these energies that are hitting the planet are fundamentally changing our DNA. And more people en masse are waking up and seeing what's going on. And some people can deal with it because everybody here that we're talking to now, Detlev, Steve, Matt, Michael, we've been doing this a long time. So we've been able to acclimatize ourselves over the years. We've gone down a load of rabbit holes. We've checked them out. Some of them had information, some of them didn't. But over the years, we've climatized ourselves to the information. So even if some information comes out that's a bit of a shocker for us, we can deal with it and we can sort it out in our own mind because we're so used to this. But what will happen is that when information starts coming out and there's a wake-up process to people who are still in the matrix, it's just going to blow their mind because they just won't be able to deal with it. Now, this wave that's coming in, or this energy that's supposed to be coming in on the 31st of July, it's, everybody has their own kind of idea or speculation as to what's going to happen. I don't know. Some people say there's going to be a big flash and that'll be it. Other people will probably think that it's a big flash, but it's not going to affect the planet. It's just going to heighten our consciousness level, our vibration level, and our DNA will get more advanced and we'll have more abilities and we'll be able to manifest quicker because we're moving from 3D into 5D. But so I put it to the table on what you have heard. What have you heard on the internet? What's your thoughts on it? What do you think is happening? And take it from there. So over to you, Detlev. You want to start off?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Indeed, this is something which goes around on the internet. And I also learned that in, I think, 5 days' time, we will have an alignment of all the planets on just one side of the sun. So there is also some commotion in terms of volcano activity to be expected. We also have this incredible volcano activity in Hawaii, the big island we talked about this last time. It's happening every few minutes that there's a major earthquake. I mean, a major something like between 2 to 4.
Detlev, you just reminded me there. Can I just add something to this? There is also speculation and talk that the activations of the volcanoes globally, and they're all going off, will basically have a magnetic effect or some kind of effect on the sun to actually cause this flash of light. These volcanoes going off, there's a reason why they're all going off, and the collective of the volcanoes, that energy is going to cause some magnetic pulse to activate the sun. Sorry, that's just something that I meant to say.
Yeah, it's connected, so it's helpful you added that. Yeah, and that's also my impression that things are completely different. Also, if you walk in the sun, Matt, we talked about this earlier today before the show, that you are expecting that it is going to be pretty hot today. I mean, your area is also not the hottest, I guess, but the sun is really very strong. I mean, if you are outside for a bit of time, you feel incredible strength of the radiation. That's my impression. I went out today, and it's again, I can't stand it all the time, so I go back inside. So that's my input for the time. Who would you like to pick next, Ellen? Matt, would you like?
I'll go. Yeah, so I've not been following this particular discussion on the internet. Sometimes I'll pay attention to esoteric things like this, but not so much. I try to, because of my lack of time to spend on this, I tend to stick to current events, what's happening geopolitically around the world, that kind of thing. Though I think first off, I would want to find somebody who could answer the question, well, where is this energy coming from and what is its source? And what kind of energy are we talking about? Are we talking about some kind of radiation or some radio waves or plasma? What are we talking about here? And then I found it interesting that somebody, you said, Alan, claimed that there is organic and synthetic life forms. And I think that's a little far-fetched. We have clones. I think it's a little far-fetched. You see reproductive biology working every day. You're the product of it. So I think, though, a more accurate description of how people are, or as I observe them these days, I see more zombie-like people who are vaccine damaged, one, and two, programmed within the matrix through their media, their corporate news and the social media and the movies and television programming, just trapped in that matrix. And to me, they're sort of like not really human. They look human, they feel like human, they smell human, but they're not, because they're just this mind altered zombie type folks. And so that's what I see in my world. Not synthetic people, perhaps, but people who just aren't awake, and they really lack the knowledge and the sparkle in their eye that people who are awake have. So as far as this occurrence on July 31st, that's rather dubious. Those always, like you say, Alan, come and go without event. And then, there's always some excuse. Oh, something changed in the universe. We had a realignment of Pluto and Krypton. So that really stopped the event from happening. I don't believe that. If it happens, great. We all die. What are you going to do about it? But in the reality, I think folks are starting to wake up. You can see it, and they're having a hard time dealing with reality. It's causing them to short circuit. You see these anti-Trumpers, and they're just berserk. They're really insane the way they behave. Like this occurrence in Texas, San Antonio, Texas. This kid was out at a restaurant, a Whataburger, in Texas, just wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat, and this adult black guy comes up and accosts this little kid. He took his hat, ripped out some of his hair, and then threw a soft drink into the kid's face. And it's a great thing that somebody was catching this on video. But this kind of insanity is I think, a demonstration of folks that can't handle the matrix or being outside of the matrix. They want to put that genie back in the bottle, and it's too late for them.
Okay, well, I'll just comment on that, if I can. As to the cloning, Matt. Well, I used to work for a company when I lived in London, and we did life sciences. And their claim to fame was, now I don't know whether you heard that over in America, but their claim to fame was Dolly the sheep. That was the first cloned sheep.
Sure.
And that was their claim to fame. And we did the PR and marketing for that company who did the cloning. Now, if they're cloning sheep, and that was in 2001, around that time, if they're cloning sheep, then they've had this technology for years before that. We're just seeing, the public are just seeing what they're saying they have now with the cloning of the sheep. Now, that was in 2001. They've been doing cloning for a long time. They've only started to release it now. Like other technologies they had, they've used it and have had it for a long, long time, but they're just shown a little bit to the general public. So cloning, yeah, possible, totally possible. They have the technology. Again, there's loads of information out there on the internet. Okay, you have to filter and you have to go through it and you have to, rationalize what they're talking about. But if you have done limited research on the internet, then obviously I'd agree with you. To your answer that you don't believe it, and that's fine. I'd agree with you, but I have done a lot of research into this, and I have worked in companies that have been involved in this. So that's why I know there's something more to it than just speculation.
Well, I tell you this. If you look into the Dulce lab in New Mexico, you look at Phil Snyder's work, yes, at least America has had cloning scientific experiments, for a very long time, as back in the 90s at least. And you hear of these mutations and these genetic alterations of species and blending of species, these really horrid experiments, if you actually study that sort of thing, along the alien UFO world. But I don't think they're mass cloning people. I'd like to see more evidence. Show me a laboratory and show me the results. If we're cloning people in masses, then what do they look like in public? Wouldn't the scientists be out there screaming, "Hey, look, we've cloned 75 kids. They look just like Marilyn Monroe"? Let's see that. If this is,
they're not going to show you, Matt. They're not going to show you, and the scientists wouldn't do that. If they did that, they'd be killed.
Why wouldn't they show it to you? Because
this is all it's all black project. They're not going to. It's black projects. They're not going to. I mean, even scientists that come out and say, "I found a cure for cancer," and they end up killing them. I mean, how many doctors and people who are involved in that field are being killed because they open their mouth?
Cloned human being. Then show me an example. What do they look like?
Well, I can't show you an example because jump in.
Well, if there's like 3,000 of them, they're going to all look the same. Easy to spot.
Steve,
right?
You want to jump in there?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I mean, when people say how, if there were clones, we would know. Well, just, as we often say, sometimes you have to entertain a thought without necessarily accepting it, which I think we can all agree on, hopefully, that sometimes there are things that we don't understand. And, just putting it out there, maybe we often hear of people that go missing. We all know that, throughout the world, there are people who go missing and they're never heard or seen again. And that's it, that they're gone. But there are also people who do go missing and then they're found. Now, who's to say that there are not black projects where people are taken off the street, cloned, killed, and then the clone is put back out on the street for whatever reason? I don't know. I'm just saying that it wouldn't. I mean, the fact that we know cloning technology does already exist and has done for a long time, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be kind of a mad thought to think that they could actually do something like that, would it?
No, it's not a mad thought, but mass cloning, masses of our population on planet Earth, there's 7 billion of us, are clones. I have a hard time swallowing that. I can entertain the thought, but I need more concrete evidence that that's occurring for me to go, oh yeah, that's real.
Well, we assumed the 7 billion.
I was just going to say that we're assuming that. We don't know.
We don't know the 7 billion. I haven't counted them. I don't know. We've heard that there's only somebody said that we were watching a video there today, myself and Steve, and somebody said that they were told that there was only 1.1 billion on the planet, not 7. How do you know?
Because countries take censuses, right? They take censuses every 10 years. In Hawaii, in America, they take censuses, and I'm sure they keep statistics on how many people are in each country, even in lower developed countries, because you want to make sure you tax those people to death, and you want to make sure you got everybody on the rolls to tax, and you want to control their voting by putting them in one party or another. That's why you keep track of population. So when you accumulate that and you get some accountant to run all the numbers, that's how you can come up with a rough estimate of the population of the planet.
Well, they could come out and say that the 7 billion, but then they could be lying.
Well, we are talking about cloning, though. It doesn't necessarily need to be a cloning technology, because if you consider that there is a possibility that lots of people, which certainly are mind-controlled, are possibly soulless, so they don't have a soul.
That's a possibility.
That would be a different story. It is not necessary to clone a man or a woman in order to achieve that. There may be a different sort of humans who look human, but they are not real humans because they don't have a soul, or they are missing or lacking something which we believe we have.
Yeah.
We have at least 3 million of them in America. I know because they voted for Hillary Clinton in the last election.
Well, that's fair enough. Yeah, they were definitely soulless and psychopaths. Michael, what's your take on it?
Well, I think when I look at today's world situation, I see that there's a lack of empathy, and that we get imposed to a dystopic kind of octroyation, so to speak, of a world which is not really friendly to us and which is hostile. So we have these imposed happiness killers and harmony killers. And I observed it because I was looking at a case in Switzerland where they killed one bear because he was getting too close to humans. The only thing he wanted is sympathy and interact. And he, I think he went too close to a village and he was stealing some cake, which some bakery put outside for cooling down. So he was trying to search interaction, which is a natural thing. All beings were one family. They were interconnected together and they were connected to harmony. So these evil people, they say, oh, no, that's not natural behavior. You cannot approach a bear. He is separate. No, we're all parts of this creation. And we, in olden times, before the fall of man, we were all interconnecting. We were basically speaking without words, just by thoughts. And these people you just described before, these scientists, they completely have lost this kind of connection. And I think the world ails for to reconnect, to make this reconnection again with our creation. And if we do that, reestablish this connection, then a lot of our today's problem will dissolve, because nobody could come up with an idea to clone a human being. That's something out of this world, basically. And one has to be aware of it. Who puts that thought in somebody's head? Who is it? And what is the reason that who or that somebody does it? What is his or her or its intention? Where do they want to lead us? And that is the questions that people have to think about it. Why is something happening? And what is the plan or the secret plan behind it? Isn't it that they want to put us in a world of basically blunt materialism? And that being, which is a spiritual being, which I always describe as Ahriman, that is his goal. He wants to put us in a world of being without empathy, just being robots that fulfill his orders. And that's not a world I like to live in. I'm sorry. I completely, if that would be the case, I would say bye-bye. I don't want to live in this kind of world. So these are some of my thoughts towards this whole thing.
Now, imagine this guy, Juncker. He's the president of the EU, right? He just, you may have seen the video where he stumbled on the recent NATO summit.
Yeah.
He couldn't even walk anymore. They suppose he was drunk again, heavily drunk, by the way. I mean, what is this kind? I mean, what is this, a human? I mean, look at the video. I can post it in the chat room if you like to. I mean,
who is this?
This is the Juncker. Juncker is the guy who is the president of the European Union.
Right.
The Luxembourg, ex-Luxembourg chancellor, or president. And
I saw the video, Detlev, and it definitely was. I think they said, oh, he's not feeling well, he's ill. Yeah, I bet he would be after a few points that he had, maybe. The other thing that we noticed was, and we mentioned it on the show on OAM, was the destruction or the trying to destroy the family unit. Because if you look at the leaders of the world, a few of them anyway that we can mention, in Ireland, Leo Varadkar, in the UK, Theresa May, in France, Macron, and obviously in Germany, Angela Merkel, all these people don't have families. They've no kids.
Yeah.
So they've no concept or understanding of family or the family unit, and we know they are trying to destroy the family unit. So it's just funny that them four leaders, and there's probably more out there that don't have any kids.
Yeah. It's a deliberate. It's deliberate what they're trying to do with the influx of refugees and this open border mentality to destroy the country from within. They want a cultural dissolution or dissolvement. And you're right, they're trying to destroy the family and the family unit. And that's how you control people in the new world order. They don't have any allegiance to no one. And so they, willfully follow along like sheep to the direct dictations of the government.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so before we move away from that subject, we're talking about families, but the energies and the planet and everything else. Has anybody any more information to add? Have you seen anything else on the internet to add to that, or just something that we can speculate on, or how do we feel about the 31st of July? I mean, again, dates come and go. We've had them time and time and time again, and as it's not fear porn, it's just a topic of discussion for the round table. But has anybody else heard anything, or have you had any feelings or experiences that you just can't kind of put your finger on?
That kind of happens occasionally in my life, but I can't really say I'm feeling something, unusual.
Yeah.
Not today.
Okay, Michael.
Well, I mean, for me, it's quite natural that that we are part of the cosmos, and these cosmic planets are actually the physical form of godly beings, so to speak. And they have their influence. When you when you're a farmer, you know what to plant a particular state of the moon, and okay, I can plant the wheat at this particular month, and I have to observe how the moon is at that particular time, because that is affecting growth. So all these things are there, but they're very subtle. So definitely, that Secure Team 10 fellow, I forgot his name, he was once mentioning, what is that green flash? When he observed one green flash during sunset, and Steiner says that is the etheric Christ. Showing its effect on the etheric part of this world. So we have to be aware that this world consists not only of the physical things. There is a superstructure of the etheric, the astral, and some higher devachanic levels which are there. And I think when we develop more sensitivity towards these issues, then it's for our benefit. But some people that rule this world, that rule the economy, the world economy, and thus also create the influx of the migrants. They don't want this. They don't want us to become aware of this thing. That is the whole basic issue. They want to put a wedge in between our natural disposition of going and being in touch with the spiritual. So definitely, all these things have their influence. It's just a matter of the relativity to our consciousness. And that is the real basic question. They don't want us to become conscious of things. They hide them away. They obstruct any kind of connections, what they can, what is possible for them. And through that, they gain power. That's the way of the church. The church did it all the centuries and maybe thousands and 2,000 years now. They obstructed things which they didn't like us to know, because when we know that we're human beings and our thought, our feelings have all the power to connect to the universe, to create things, that we even can be procreators, that is something that they want to hide from us. And we have to again establish and take that power back in our hands and say, no, you're not there to lead us astray. We know who we are as human beings. We know our place in evolution. So we take back control. That's basically, what I think to it.
Okay, Steve, I just get your feelings on energy, but I know you mentioned something about the Northern Lights as well.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
About the energy, because what Michael was saying was 1,000% true. But if there's any energy that I personally am feeling, it's times like this when I'm talking to folks like you who are awake, that helps me feel better about the world I live in, the universe I live in. And I'm hoping with our discussions and people listening to us, our energy can be felt by them in a positive way, that they make positive changes and move in positive directions in their life.
Yeah, well, that's fair comment, and I think that's the case. What we do, I think we, and this is not an ego thing, but we underestimate when we do our own shows and we do the round table, that the consciousness level that we're vibrating on and the information that we talk about has a ripple effect to the people who are listening to the show, whether it's live or whether it's a podcast. And they feel that, obviously, that because we are open-minded and we're talking about all these subjects, it does make them feel better and maybe give them a level of confidence to think, well, I'm not going mad because these guys are talking about it and they see what's going on as well, which is a great knock-on effect for other people. So, I think we underestimate, how beneficial our radio shows and the interviews that we do has a positive effect on the people out there. And we've got great feedback from people as well. So I think it goes across the board on a conscious and a subconscious level. I think it's all relevant. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say a couple of things. I think Matt is absolutely correct. When you are talking with open-minded people, we all have, everybody, I'm sure, over a certain age wakes up with aches and pains in places that you didn't know you had, and obviously the older you get, the more aches and pains. And I think it's just part of growing old, and maybe it's just the influences on from the planet and what we're eating, what we put in, and all this. But I mean, I feel tired, like I'm just very lethargic, and I have to say, when I do have an open-minded conversation with people of the caliber that are on this show, this discussion, this round table this evening, I perk up and I'm wide awake, because it's like as if it's a drug, people that are actually on the same wavelength, people that actually get it. It's refreshing. It definitely is. And if there's a ripple effect, great. But I know from my personal life as well, and Alan knows this to be true, that I work with a lot of negative people, and I try to plant seeds and just give them nuggets of information and get them to question things. But unfortunately, it doesn't always come to fruition. Once in a while, it will. As in last week, one of the people that I work with, who's generally closed-minded about pretty much everything, unless it's to do with football and all these reality TV shows. He loves that sort of stuff. But last week, there was a lot of chemtrailing going on where we actually work, and even he noticed it, and he said to me, "Is that them chemtrails?" And I says, "It is, yeah." And I just said to him, "Why do you think they're spraying them?" And he looked at me and he went, "Well, Jesus, sure, I wouldn't have any idea. I don't know, but it's really, really noticeable." And I says, "Yes, it is." And I said, if you want to know information about it, I suggested he watch Michael Murphy's documentary, What in the World Are They Spraying? I get my link towards it as well. Whether he'll go and watch it, I don't know. But, maybe that could be his tipping point where he'll have a little awakening. But, I mean, in relation to the chemtrails, and we're talking about these 6 waves that are allegedly hitting the planet, and a 7th wave is on the way. Now, let's just say, for argument's sake, that this is true. Is it true or is it false? I don't know. We're only going by other people's information. But the chemtrailing, what's going on with the chemtrailing? I mean, what exactly are they doing? Because some people say, it's to stop the rays of the sun because of global warming, and if we have some aluminium up there, it'll reflect the rays of the sun, and therefore the planet won't heat up. Well, we've heard that the planet is heating up, but it's not heating up from external, it's heating up from the inside out. Is that true? I don't know. Take that with a pinch of salt. So if chemtrailing is not stopping the rays, then what's it trying to stop? Because we've noticed here in Ireland over the past couple of weeks, it's been ramped up. It really has, in a big way. It's like as if the last gunfight of the OK Corral, everyone is out spraying. Is it to stop something coming in? Maybe the waves from hitting the planet? I don't know. Is it to stop something going out? Is it to stop the mass consciousness and the mass awakening of people contacting a higher being, a higher power? I don't know. But I do agree, just touching with something that Michael also mentioned, that we are all interconnected. Every one of us, we all breathe the same air. We are all of the same cloth, as they say. We're all cut from the same cloth, and including the animals. including every animal on the planet. Now, I don't know about the insects, but maybe them too. But in relation to just the chemtrailing, I mean, that's kind of the bugbear for me. And my father, he's kind of awake as well, and has been for a couple of years, and even he questions it, and he's asked around, and he's asked different people, in relation to these chemtrails, why are they spraying it? And he's kind of, I think he's been labelled as the local nut job where he lives now, because as far as everyone else is concerned, that's just the exhausts from airplanes. But anyway, okay, kind of a jumble of stuff going on there. But that's just my thoughts from listening to you guys in the past few minutes.
Well, you came up with something very interesting, because you said they put something in between, and that is stopping the connection towards the spiritual, which is actually true. That's what they do, because that haze and aluminum and all these gases and poisons, what they put in, that creates a sheet, which is stopping the cosmic interaction of the Earth with the rest of the cosmos. And that means also including us. So I think that's a very important issue, also in combination with HAARP. One has to take that into consideration as well. So I suspect that there is a deeper, even more darker agenda behind all this chemtrailing. And with respect to chemtrail as such, I sometimes wonder there is a whole infrastructure necessary to keep that big operation going. And I wondered, how can this thing be organized without people noticing, without pilots speaking up in public, without, so to speak, people of the stock of the chemical production units speaking up, of the dispenser units speaking up? I have no clue. Why doesn't it, why is there no interaction with the public in that sense?
Well, Michael, I can speak to you from a corporate point of view, because my background is corporate companies, and everything is compartmentalized. But also, when they're told by their bosses, I mean, number one, their job is on the line, so they're going to keep stum. But when they're told by the bosses that, we're putting this chemical together, and you'll hear people talking about these chemtrails, but listen, they're not chemtrails. What they are is, this is what we're doing. But they're all conspiracy theorists, and don't mind them. This is really what's happening, and this chemical, we're trying to save the planet, but you have to keep quiet, blah blah blah. So that's how they do it. I mean, you would be surprised how easy it is to control people by telling them the wrong information and saying to them, no, you have to keep this quiet. It's top secret. And they're told, and if you say anything, you're going to lose your job. When you have a mortgage to pay and you have kids and the family and all that, look, you play along with it and you go along with it. And that's how they do it. And that's how they've been doing it for years. They dangle the carrot, over your head, about your job and all that. Plus the fact that they lie to you. And people will believe it, because there's a lot of people who are gullible and won't ask the questions. They just don't care.
Just in relation, very quickly, Alan, we do know, and just let Michael know, that pilots are speaking out about this. Pilots have actually gone on record over in America, and there are several YouTube channels of actual pilots, and they're at a mass conference, and they all stand up and they all gave their information in relation to chemtrails. So I mean, they are aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and it's in a military operation as well, so they have a gag order. So, and if you violate your terms, then this is very, very tough.
Yeah.
Right. As to the why, though, I think it's a depopulation and population control mechanism. They're putting tons of aluminum into the atmosphere for us to ingest, and if you don't somehow detox your body of that, it accumulates in the brain. And they've found that high levels of aluminum, is a major cause of Alzheimer's disease. You have a dumbed down population at a much earlier age, from infants to seniors, and so they're much more controllable, and they're sicker. They have to take a lot of drugs which have side effects that are detrimental, so you take more drugs to cover those side effects, and I think it starts that cycle of population control. And
Detlev.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you were talking about what are the changes and what are the signs of that they are preparing for a major awakening of the population.
Yeah.
And if you look at things happening here in Europe, especially France, they are on martial law since a couple of years or more, since these false flag operations.
Yes, that's disco shooting, right?
Right. And Germany as well, they just introduced in Bavaria for a couple of months ago a new law, police law, where they don't need any more.
Seems like we're losing Detlev.
Are you losing me? Sorry.
No, you're fine, Detlev.
No, loud and clear.
Hear me?
I'm sorry. So, there's a new police law in Germany, in Bavaria, it started, where they got rights to incarcerate people without any court order or something like that. So it is happening that they are trying to eliminate anyone who is speaking up. We just learned there are a few bloggers have been arrested recently coming from Bavaria. So there's no information about them, where they are being kept, because there is no court, there's no law, there's no lawyer able to find out what's going on because of this new law. And they also are preparing here for civil unrest in Germany, especially. I mean, in Germany, there are lots of troops from the Americans, Canadians, British, France, French, and Belgian troops still on in Germany active. And we all learn that they are moving troops across Germany up to the direction of the eastern parts of Europe, direction towards Russia. But they are also able to strike within the Europe, right? And we've got this major influx of migrants, which is taking place every day. So there's no halt to it, even though there's a certain resistance by the population. The Italian government just changed parties who are ruling there, and they are trying to play the one who are rejecting migrants. But still, there are so many migrants already in Europe. There are millions already. So it's an incredible situation. And they're also trying to censor everybody who is speaking up. We have a difficult time. I have a difficult time because they're trying to. I'm happy. I'm in Switzerland. If I were in Germany, I would be shut down already. Okay.
Well, you were shut down already.
Yeah, I was
from Germany, and they come into your country and arrest you. It's like somebody coming from Canada to arrest me or Mexico to arrest me. That's crazy.
But I fought back, and now they're a little bit more careful. But still, I mean, if I were in Germany now, there would be no chance to broadcast the way I do.
We have that same law, the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012, authorized, and they just continue it today, authorizes the military to pick people off the street without judge, jury, trial, charges. They just and they never have to tell anybody about your whereabouts. You get no legal representation. You're just off to a black hole somewhere, and that's legal in the United States now. And
Yeah.
But I don't know if people having disappeared in the United States, but you see a lot of suicides and robberies of so-called people or who are truth champions, right?
Right. And the killings as well. I mean, incidents, whatever incident it is, accidents,
Accidents.
Yeah. So it's the way they are working against the waking up, and I think this waking up is coming. We are shortly before a major waking up. And I think that's what Alan also wants to express, this wave consciousness which may hit us. In maybe that's something we talked about the last time in our last roundtable discussion. That there may be an incident which takes place on Earth which will change the world, and it could be a consciousness wave from whatever source it may come from. It could be the sun, it could be something from the universe. I mean, if this alignment thing, and I posted this video in the chat room, if you have time later on, listen to it. This alignment, which will take place in about 5 days or in about a week, could be the start of this incredible waking up. So the July 31st, could be, whether it's July 29th or it's August 2nd, I don't know, but there may be a time coming up to us which will change the world. Hopefully, it does.
But Detlev, you mentioned about the volcanoes gone off. There was a chap who does a lot of videos on YouTube called Mr. BBB333, I think his name is. And he's talking about this alignment, and he said that it's only happened 6 times in the last 120 years, I think. And he said that every time it does major, chaos on the planet. It just so happens that we're going to have all these volcanoes are going off all in sync. They seem to be all kind of going off within a few days of each other. And if this alignment, which is going to happen in the next few days, is lining up the planet. So I said to Steve earlier today, we were watching a video about it, and I said to Steve, maybe the whole idea of the alignment and having all the planets on one side of the sun is that this wave is just going to hit us. It's a bit like, again, I refer to the movie Men in Black, where they use that little device to wipe your memory. So maybe the sun will activate, and it'll just activate one way and just have this massive wave on the planets all on that side of the sun. I mean, I'm only guessing, again, it's only speculation, I don't know, but they are saying about this alignment, and that alignment is going to happen. And the volcanoes are going off. I mean, we know that for certain. So there's obviously something going on, right, that's affecting things. But if anybody, we have another kind of issue related to this that we need to get into. But if anybody wants to add anything to that, then just jump in and say it, and then we can go on to the next subject.
I'll watch this planetary alignment video. I can imagine that, like the gravitational effect the moon has on the Earth, and there's real physiological effects on animals and people that occur, as it rotates around the Earth. I can imagine as planets might line up on one side of the sun, it might have a greater effect on gravitational forces that might affect people or animals or things. I'd like to see the world wake up. So, if July 31st is when the planet wakes up, that's going to be one ugly day because a lot of people won't be able to handle the truth.
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, you're going to see, Matt. If this happens, and that conscious wave comes in, or something happens, or there's a trigger, and people wake up and they get their download, whatever, you're going to see chaos because people. I mean, just imagine the amount of years that all of us have spent in looking at this subject matter. We've spent years doing it. Imagine just getting an immediate download of all that information. It'll just fry your mind.
That's kind of part of this topic I wanted to talk about. Maybe we can address that in the next hour about this madness I see in the United States and how people are going crazy. And part of it, I think, is because they're being forced to be awake now. And yeah. So I think we could talk about that in the next hour. But yeah, people are going crazy. And people are waking up though. So yeah, I want to pick that up on the next hour.
Yeah. So we go to the break now, Alan. If you are allowing this.
Yeah, we'll bring it to the break. We'll mention the other subject, but we will cover that as well. I've seen videos. We talk about people going mad, and we will talk about it. But I seen a video posted up on Facebook, and this guy is at kind of a waiting at a bus stop for a bus, and the guy behind him just walks up behind him, and all of a sudden takes out a machete and starts hitting him with it.
Oh my God!
Right, and you think, what is going on? What's going on? And this is time and time again. You know, people are posting up videos, and they're not like green screen studio stuff. They are actually, you can see they're actually videos from mobile phones, and people are saying, why did this happen? Why? I mean, one guy, Steve, I don't know whether you've seen it, walked up in, this is over here in Ireland, right? I think it was up the Northern Ireland. He went across a pedestrian crossing, and this white van was coming down just to cross the crossing, and he took out a petrol bomb and threw it at the windscreen. For what reason?
Yeah.
You know, this kind of insanity of people doing things that are just unbelievable.
Yeah,
but
demons are on the road. So that's one of the issues.
Let's pick that up on the other side of the
pick this up. Yeah, exactly. We're going to
okay. Sorry, Detlev, go ahead.
Yeah, we're listening to Jordan Page, Ballad of Lavoy Finicum, and after that we will be available. So please stay tuned. We'll have a quick break. So see you after that.
United we start. We explore the New World Order, finance, science, health, and other subjects in our group discussions of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT. Looking forward to meeting you.
Everybody, this is Jordan Page. In light of the recent events in Oregon, I just wrote a song that I want to share with you. This is called The Ballad of Lavoy Finicum. Subtext, Cowboys Stand for Freedom. He was a man who loved to walk the land, turn his cheek but also take a stand. His conviction called, he followed what he felt was right. Well, there's no telling just what time will bring. You can live for nothing or for everything, but when the pushes come to shove, and tell me, will you find? A cowboy stand for freedom. I'm just talking about a name carved in a stone, a friend and brother to anyone. He's riding off into the setting sun. Drive on, cowboy, he's heading home. Well, there's almost right and then there's nearly wrong, as you live your life from sunrise to dawn, and then it's over and the moment's gone. You can testify to things unseen, but the world is blind, can't see a thing. All you can do is try to be a human being. I'm only talking about a cowboy stand for freedom. I'm just talking about a name carved in a stone, a friend and brother to anyone. He's riding off no mistake. The weight of justice is a heavy load, and I'm living by code. He left his home to go and take a stand as voice rang out across the deafened land, and in the end it was a bullet that exposed the lies. A truth remembered is a battle won, though his murder cannot be undone. It rings out like an echo, thundering across the night. Here's to all the cowboys that stand for freedom. Why do we watch them from afar with hearts of stone? He's riding off to the setting sun, the thoughts of many from the voice of one. Well, drive on, cowboy, your work is done. Well, Godspeed, cowboy, we'll carry on.
United We Start, Fighting for Freedom. A group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of a month, 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT.
Hello and welcome back to the United We Start Roundtable. You have myself, Alan James. You have Stephen George from OIM. You have Detlev from Wake News, Michael from Wake News, and Matt Navarro from New World Order. And we're talking about all different kinds of subjects. So we said for the second part of the show, we're going to get into this madness that seems to be going on around the world. And people kind of losing the plot and people doing things that are just unbelievable. What I just mentioned there before the break was seeing a video of a guy standing at a bus stop waiting for a bus. And this chap comes up behind him for no apparent reason and takes out a machete and then starts hitting him with the machete. Now, there seems to be a lot of these videos out there and people are filming and CCTV and everything else. Why this is happening, I do not know. But we can speculate and talk about it because this madness seems to be global. It's not just, in one country. It seems to be affecting everybody. And what we feel it might be is that the consciousness level of the planet is rising. And obviously, when you step outside the matrix, your consciousness level rises anyway. And then you want to start learning and educate yourself and go down the rabbit holes to find out what's going on. So your consciousness level, your vibration level goes up. But for people who are inside the matrix, then they're stuck in that matrix and they can't move. And their level is at a certain frequency. So if these new energies are coming in and hitting the planet and they're on a higher level, then these people are not coping with the energies. And maybe that's what's causing the madness. Again, it's speculation is what everybody talks about. But Matt, you wanted to jump in and talk about this subject.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. I'm seeing here in the United States this hysteria of anti-Trump craziness. It's the anti-Trump delusional syndrome, they're calling it, something like that. Anyway, since his election, our country has just gone bonkers. There's no other way to describe it. This madness that people are behaving in is incredible. You've got Maxine Waters calling for people to assault anybody that doesn't think the same thoughts as and believes the same way that they do, to accost people in the street. You've got, like I mentioned earlier, that incident where a grown-up stole a kid's hat just because he didn't like the hat. And you've got Breitbart had this article. I'm not seeing it today, but they had this article on their website that described how many occurrences of violence against Trump supporters or just normal people have occurred since Trump got elected, and the count was like over 300. And you've got our government acting as if they're above. Well, they are above the law, I suppose. Where at the highest levels of government, you have major corruption. The Secretary of State, putting classified information on her server so that it can be bought via payments to her so-called charitable foundation, and selling state secrets that way. And that's not being investigated at all. And you've got corruption on the FBI. This week we had major hearings in Congress with FBI agents who are just out of this world, arrogant and lying straight through their teeth, with the full backing of the FBI and Justice Department behind them, creating just this madness that we can see that they're lying, but they say they're not lying, and then we have to accept that. And they're never going to go to jail for their crimes, and we have to put up with that. Now they just indicted 12 Russians in this phony Russian narrative that Russia had was trying to affect the outcome of our election. They know that's phony, and then they still pull this off, and they don't care that people around the world know that it's phony. They're just doing this to make you think that Russia maybe did have something to do with messing with our elections, and we know it's not. So this craziness, I think, is all spawned by the deep state having to realize that Trump got elected because people are awake, and the people who are Hillary supporters or were Hillary supporters and anti-Trump are the people who are in the matrix, were in the matrix, and they don't like being woken up. So they're clamoring hard to go back into it. Like the movie said, Morpheus said that, people will fight you to go back in there. And that Cepheus character was the portrayal of that. Or in the movie They Live, where Roddy Piper tried to get his friend to wear the glasses, and his friend knew that if he wore the glasses, he would have to wake up. And then so they fought really hard, beat each other up pretty good in the movie, so that eventually he did have to wake up. And so I think this Trump craziness is people waking up and fighting hard to go back in the matrix, and it's causing violence in the streets of America, and it's being funded by George Soros to organizations like Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and they're pitting the races against each other, the sexes against each other. I mean, you can't even. I mean, today you could be this morning you could be female, and if you want to tonight you could be male. And they're pushing this agenda, and they're brainwashing the kids, and this craziness. I'm seeing it now in London with this anti-Trump protests there. It seems so uncouth of the British people, but you're seeing it around the world. And I know you were mentioning it, Alan, that and Detlev, that you're seeing it in Europe as well. And I think it's people trying to fight to get back into the matrix.
Yeah, that's fair comment, Matt. Steve, you want to come in there?
Well, the only thing I want to say is in relation to what Matt's talking about there. Yeah, I mean, we've all seen the movie They Live. There's a great message in that film, and I think you can take a lot away from it. Like one of the messages that I took away from that movie was that not everybody wants to be woken up. Some people are happy not knowing the truth, and even though you may have a point of view and you want to share it with them, they may not want to know. And that movie kind of rang through in my personal life as well, and probably a lot of other people also. When I start waking up to all of what's going on, and it was like a download of some description, I suppose, where Once I pulled the curtain back, I was looking at loads of different information, and my mind was almost blown. But I wanted to share this information, and some of my family members, as many people who listen to our show will know, some of my family members disowned me because they thought that I had actually gone over the edge and had kind of freaked out and was having some sort of an episode. But it wasn't until they themselves had their own kind of awakening that they could actually see where I was coming from. But unfortunately, not everyone really wants to be woken up. And even in my work life as well, as I mentioned earlier, there are some people who they will happily sit down and discuss certain topics. Sometimes they might touch on a topic that I even want to get involved in. Like, let's say, for argument's sake, but it's mostly football that they speak about. But sometimes they will actually talk about current topics that may be in the mainstream, like vaccines or vaccine damage. And that's when I kind of my ears will kind of perk up, and I'll jump in, and I'll gently, ever so gently, just kind of say, well, what if, and what about, and what do you think of this? And I'll put forward an argument in relation to information that I would have learned. And even the softly approach, I'm finding that people, they don't want to know. It's a case of, well, okay, we hear what you're saying, but no, we would rather sit here and discuss, oh, isn't that terrible? And people should do something about this. And God, that's terrible. But when they hear solutions and, maybe more information as to why the problem occurred in the first place, it's like it's too much and they don't want to know. And, I suppose there is a wake up process, and I know we spoke about it, and we've done a video in relation to the waking up process and all the different steps, the whole psychology behind it. And if for anyone listening, it's on YouTube. If you want to just pop along and see it, you can probably find the link on our website, oimradio.com. But I think unfortunately, although maybe all these downloads will possibly happen in relation to this seventh wave, unfortunately, maybe a lot of people won't be able for it. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, that when we hear about people kind of flipping the lid and going out and going on killing sprees and beating people up and having a machete at a bus stop, maybe that's all kind of connected. Maybe there are people who have already received a download, Alan. I don't know if this is possible, or if it's all going to happen at the one time, or if it's a kind of a gradual thing. But that's my 2 cents worth anyway.
Okay, well that's very that's all relevant, Steve. And the other thing that I will add to this breaking down of society is technology seems to be breaking down. Things don't work anymore. You try to use your bank cards or your computers or this, that, and the other. There just seems to be always a problem somewhere. And Michael, what's your take on this breakdown in society and what's going on?
Well, I think this referring to that machete type, the machete guy. What they're doing, the ruling evil class, the cabal, want to fractionalize consciousness. And when you look into human alchemy, so to speak, and the way human being is structured, is also spiritually, when you fractionalize consciousness, incantations can take place. That means you can be possessed by demons, demonic beings.
Yeah.
And these people that set out these evil plans, they know what they're doing, because they give us a subconscious message. Your life does not matter. It doesn't count, basically. And these being, of course, every human being wants to be important. He is an important being of this creation. And if he has a healthy approach towards that, he knows that he will have the means to connect up with a constructive way with the whole universe, as I mentioned before. But these people, they get the message: you're not worth anything. You will worth like SHIT. So, of course, they become like monsters. And then these negative beings, these demonic beings, take over possession temporarily and commit these kind of actions. That was known in the olden times before. That was called incantations. And that is a sad thing, because we have to be aware and vigilant of these designers, those evil Herodian designers that create these paradigms. And we have to counterbalance it through a creative approach in the way we think about life, the way we organize our daily life, the way we organize our social life. That's very important. I wanted to mention also, yeah.
So go ahead.
I wanted to mention something about Matt's. He mentioned the situation in the U.S. I think these people study history. And it came to my head, Berlin, 1930, 1933, where the commies hitting the Nazis and vice versa. So basically, what I think, these people have that role model in their head. And they want to lead the American society to the same kind of scenario. Even though speaking that the Antifa is a creation that we had in Europe since, 30 years, 40 years. That's a leftist organization of violent leftist gangs that start all this non-constructive kind of destructive interaction with society. So maybe
I didn't know that. I didn't know that they had a history. I mean, I can relate back to the brown shirts, and Antifa is very reminiscent of their tactics and how they try to shut down opposition speech or even just people wanting to exercise free speech. So tell me about their history, because I didn't know that they had a history other than they just showed up a couple of years ago here.
Yeah, but maybe Detlev knows more about this Antifa, because he was maybe a couple of years earlier active in that way. But I know that they've been organized in Europe since years, especially in Germany. I think every year in Berlin, I think it's during May 1st, they create an orgy of destruction. They set cars on fire and smash windows. And that kind of thing. That became a habit, as well as in France. They do the same thing.
Well, you have a good point there, Michael, because one thing we didn't say, and you hit the nail on the head, and we actually, I went for some regressional therapy there a couple of weeks ago. One of our guests invited me down, and it was Katrina Kavungu, and we had a great chat, and she was saying the amount of negative, demonic and walk-in spirits that she's removed from people under regression is phenomenal. And she said, you will not believe, and I've heard this before from other people, you will not believe how many people are affected. Now, there is a documentary which I can send a link to you guys that I recommend you watch. And it's got to do with the Catholic Church. The exorcist was retiring in Rome. And this priest was nominated as the next exorcist. So he had to fly to Rome, and he had to sit and watch what this old guy was doing. And basically, people would come in, sit in a chair and go, how are you, Father? And then all of a sudden, their possession took over. Their demonic entity took over. And he said about 40 people would come in that week. And then all of a sudden, they would go back to normal. And they go, oh, thank you, Father. I'll be back and see you next week. Because it's this demonic entity. And there's more and more of this happening as well. Walk-ins, some people say walk-ins. And Katrina was very explicit in talking to me about, things that she had to remove. And she would be treating somebody under regression. And these energies and these entities would be in the room with her. And, how dare you get rid of me? And, of course, the typical things, if you're on drugs or drink and all that all the stuff to bring your energy down, you can be taken over. So that is a big concern as well, why people might be going mad as well. But I'll pass it over to Detlev and get Detlev. What's your take on what's happening in what you're seeing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. On the Antifa thing, we had been monitoring a demonstration here in Basel, in Switzerland, where Antifa is also active. They are basically state-sponsored. So they're sponsored by the state because they can do whatever nobody else can do. So they are allowed to do things which you normally would be incarcerated immediately for. So they were able to do things, spray on walls in the middle of the city, right? So you never would be allowed to do so in a regular situation. So they are state-sponsored. When they walk in a group like soldiers, and you feel that energy that is showing that they are demon-possessed, right? So they are on a mission. They are on an agenda. And we also talked to individuals in this demonstration who were from the communist side. So, there's a communist thinking behind that. And we know communism and fascism is the same part of thing, just the other way around. In fascism, the corporations take over the state. In communism, it's the other way around. The state takes over the corporations. And the big money is always behind both. So it's basically two sides of a coin, right? So they're using this to basically push on us the forces of evil, and they are using this in order to increase their police powers and their control powers, and their and the freedom is being cut down to whatever level we are experiencing now. So that's said to Antifa, and Antifa has a history. That's right. It's existing here in Europe, most probably longer than in the United States. But as they are financed by the Rothschilds and so forth, George Soros is just one agent of Rothschild. So they brought this over to the US as well. And the same thing is to be seen with the migrant wave, because the migrants which are coming into Europe or possibly also into the States from the Mexican border, they are all in a different development stage of their life or of their being. They are not as well developed, spiritually as well as materially. So they are conquering basically the rich world. That's their point of view, and they're being used in order to cut down any resistance which comes from the regular population, the wake-up population in Europe and the States, I guess. So that is what we are experiencing, and this has started 2015 in a major wave here in Europe, at least, since the Bilderberg meeting in Austria, in Telfs in Austria. So that was the order when everything started. And we know of plans here of the European Union that they are taking in something like between 60 to 100 million Africans within the next few years into Europe. And if you see or picture Europe as a whole within the African continent, it is disappearing in the middle somewhere in Africa, size-wise. So why are the Europeans taking in Africans in such huge numbers? So this is not making any sense. So there's a major agenda behind that, and we believe that this is the beginning of the end of our societies as we know. So we are in the middle of that, and there's also a wave of consciousness waiting for us. So this is a race. It's a race. Who will get here first? That's my point of view.
That's bang on. And I agree with you on that. With the amount of awakening that's going on in the world, what is a race? It's them and us. Now, we have been told, whether it's true or not, that the Cabal are losing. I think we can see an awful lot of things that are positives out there that maybe they are losing, and they're desperate. They're on the defense at the moment rather than an offense, and they're trying everything. And people are beginning to stand up and obviously fight and disagree. And this one thing we have to kind of get rid of, I think, is this political correctness. This political correctness is just another way to stop free speech.
Exactly. Self-censorship.
Yeah, self-censorship. And people will say, oh, well, it's not politically correct. We have to stop that. And we have to be able to speak our mind and say what we feel about things. And while we're talking about immigration, I think we should touch base on that subject, because I know, Matt, that you want to have a talk about it as well. And we can all, again, we'll throw it around the table and get everybody's opinion on it. But Matt, you kick us off.
Yeah, before we go there, I wanted to echo your point that people are waking up, and there's little glimmers of hope. And one I came across is this hashtag walk away, where people who identify themselves as liberals or Democrats are walking away from the party because they see the madness of it all. They're starting to see the political correctness is a form of suppressing free speech. They're seeing that, calls for violence against others is not good. Now we're being told in America that civility is equal to white supremacy. And I'm like, what? How can people being civil to one another be some form of racism? So this walkaway movement, you can just go up to YouTube and type in walkaway, and you'll get dozens and dozens of videos of people saying, hey, I'm walking away from liberalism or socialism or the Democratic Party because I'm waking up. So that's a good point. As far as this immigration thing, here in America, we're being told now if you're for legal immigration, you're a racist. Somehow by inferring that because most of the immigration is coming through our southern border, through a mostly Hispanic population, that you're being racist against them. And that's just lunacy, because you could be an illegal alien of any race. So it's just another tactic of the left to demonize people who want legal immigration. I'm all for immigration, just come in through the border legally. And what you're seeing here in America and in Europe is this, they're trying to dissolve us and put us against each other culturally, so that we're at each other's throat. And they foment this through groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And thanks, Detlev, for the explanation. I did not know Antifa was actually a European product that was shipped to the United States. I wasn't aware of that. But through groups like this, they foment this balkanization and strife between cultures and sexes in order to keep us in chaos. And this chaos, I think, is what Micah would say is related to the evil side of life. And maybe that's true. They want to create that because, that's the energy that they want the world to be absorbed in. And it's people like us who try to bring that other energy into the world. And I think Alan was right. They're desperate. They're trying to throw anything up against the wall to see if it'll stick.
Yeah. The one thing about political correctness, and I'm going to do the disclaimer before we go any further, because I don't want people thinking that, well, these guys are, racist or against any. We're not against any race or any creed, anything at all. We're just saying it as how we see it. Now, one of the things I know for a fact, and it's psychological, and they do it over here in Ireland, I'm sure they do it all around the world, is that they know there's different. First of all, the divide and conquer program, they'll always try and do. They'll try and always to implement the divide and conquer program. So we have to be aware of that. Then they have the political correctness program. So we have to be aware of that as well. But one of the things they try and do is that, Detlev, you kind of talked about it, and you said spiritually and on a conscious level, these people are not at the level that we would be. And that's not racist. That's not, it's not anything other than pointing out the obvious. And you can tell that by the way their actions, the things that they do. You think, why would somebody go and do that? Like the gang raping, women is a common theme where, and in some of these immigrants, in Sweden and Norway or wherever, you hear stories of them gang raping women. And I've seen videos where if a woman, this guy went up to a woman to chat her up, and because she refused him, he just went and hit her. And nutcases. So these people are just not on the same level that the likes of us would be on. We're outside the matrix. And that's not ego, or it's not us putting ourselves on a pedestal. It's just a fact, right? Now, what they try and do in society, and I've seen it over here, is in our own societies, in our own countries, there are people like that as well. We know them. And, we know certain people that are like that, have a certain mentality. So what they try and do is they'll get an estate. They'll get a housing estate or a group of houses where you have a certain level of, people who will have probably very laid back, good neighbors, very low crime. And what they'll do is they'll get these individuals, and it could be immigrants or it could be locals, doesn't matter. And they'll say, well, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take these people, and we know that they're not at the level of these people, so we'll put them in this estate, and maybe by osmosis in some way, that these people will raise up their game to the people all around them. But that very, very rarely happens. And I'm in a location that we have that situation, and that is not happening. So what's happening at the moment is we're getting vandalism in the local area, and there's possibly some crime as well by certain people because their maybe their upbringing, or maybe the parents didn't teach them the things they needed to know. Maybe the parents were not taught what they should know about respect and common law and stuff like that. So you're getting that level, and unfortunately that breaks down society as well. Instead of having a kind of community, it affects the community, and people just go into their own shell and go, I'm not getting involved, I'm not interested in everything else, because it only takes one or two apples to spoil the barrel, So this I see is happening. And the other thing, before I pass it around, is that I'm a big believer of charity begins at home, and you should help yourself. Not so much help yourself, but help people of your own nationality first. Now, we have a massive homeless crisis in Ireland, but yet we're still bringing people in and putting them in homes and leaving our own people on the streets. How is that right? So, Steve, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I just want to touch base very on what you mentioned earlier in relation to the likes of antisocial behaviour and vandalism in different areas, and it kind of becoming the new norm. I suppose not really the new norm, the old norm, and so like where my mother-in-law lives, and where she lives, Alan. There's a certain element there. Young children, I think they're all in between the age of 16 and 18, and there's a certain amount of antisocial behaviour that goes on. But the locals just kind of go, we just keep our eyes closed and turn our backs and ignore it, and that's pretty much what has happened. But it actually kind of got to a peak there last week, and I was very surprised, and I actually thought there were going to be repercussions, but my mother-in-law kind of reached breaking point, and she went up to these children, adolescents, who were being antisocial, and she had a rant at them. Now, I didn't hear the rant firsthand, but she did kind of tell me later on what she had said to them about what they were doing in the area, and the noise and the hassle and the state of the place. That when they were finished, like, there was food and drink containers left kind of strewn around. So she went down and she had a rant and a rave. And as I say, I spoke with her then maybe a day or two later, and she told me what had happened. And my initial reaction was, I didn't say it out loud, and I kind of said it internally. Oh, what have you done? I'm kind of thinking now, she's opened herself up to more of the same, and it's probably going to escalate now. And fortunately, I spoke with her there about 2 days ago, and she told me that the children, the kids involved, they went to the place where they were all the litter was. They went down with black plastic bags. They cleaned up the place, and they tidied it up and made it look spick and span. And I think one of them actually came up to her after that and said, "We're after sorting that place out. Sorry about that." And
Nice
you
job.
could have knocked me over with a feather, because that I have to say, that one act alone by those kids has actually restored my faith in humanity, I have to say.
Detlev. Or Detlev, you come in there. What's your take on what's happening over there?
Well, I think we should ask Michael. He's been waiting for answering something.
Oh, Michael, yeah, come in, Mike.
Well, okay. One thing concerning immigration, I want to say a word towards world economics and these people that rule the economics, the cabal, which is behind world economics, and the banksters, excuse me, and so forth. So if we were to give, suppose, some people in Africa the right amount for their coconut, for their goods which they export to us, give them a fair price, I think the whole situation would dissolve. Because why would somebody come from Africa, which is a beautiful country with plenty of resources, no cold, plenty of sun? Why would they come over here to Europe and freeze their butt off?
Because the United States creates wars and kills people and bombs villages and hospitals and schools, creating chaos in Syria, Libya, Iraq, and that's why these people want to find another place to live, because the United States does these things.
Yeah, not the United States, the cabal, which rules Washington, D.C., one could say.
Well,
maybe.
our military and their proxies, controlled by the cabal.
Right. And basically what they want to do is they want to bring the people over here. Some of them have maybe the majority is not developed in spiritually, as well as, as the physical development is not really at a high level. But they want to create over here as kind of a collective mob thinking. And that's what that is the major focus of the cabal, because mob you can control. Self-controlled people, reflective people, you cannot control. They think for themselves. For instance, military training, you take the individuality away from a person or from a human being, and the more you bring the mob, so to speak, in, or you propagate mob thinking, or you foster mob thinking, the more you can control the people, and the more you can rule. And get your agenda the way you want it, That's my take on it.
Can I just jump in there on, Michael, what you said there about what the army do? I was reading a book, or an article about that, and in World War II, a lot of soldiers actually didn't shoot at the people, because this whole kind of Christian of thou shalt not kill was always kicking in about shooting somebody and killing them. And the American military kind of knew about this, and he said, well, how can we program these guys to get past that so they will kill? So they did a program, and what they do, and to be honest with you, you can actually see this. There's a program called Gordon Ramsay, Restaurant Nightmares, and basically he goes in to fix a restaurant, and the psychology is exactly the same. You have to break them down to a stage where they're, they'll do anything, what you tell them. Like, these people think they have a fantastic restaurant and the food is great. What Gordon Ramsay does is he goes in, he breaks them down, and because they're in denial, and he gets them down to a stage where he can build them back up again. And the American military basically do the same thing with the soldiers. They break them down as an individual and make them part of the collective, and program them to tell them to, well, if you don't shoot, here they're going to shoot you. And they found that there was a massive increase in them doing what they're told because of this programming. And it's just interesting that you mentioned it there. So this is part and parcel of maybe what this Antifa movement is doing, because people, being people, always want to be part of a group or a collective. And if that's being funded by Soros or the cabal, then you can see that, number one, they're getting paid. Number two, they're in a group, and people are in a group obviously feel safer. One of the things that we were told by a Bob Chapman, I think it was Bob Chapman, there's somebody that we I think we were speaking to, and we said, what advice would you give people? And he said, join a group. Always be part of a group like Hell's Angel or, community group or something. Never be on your own, because if anything happens and the crap hits the fan, you need to have people with you in the community. Otherwise, if you're on your own, you're not going to survive. So he had a point. Who wants to take it up?
Yeah, I think you are all right. But the issue which comes up to us is, how do we get out of there? How do we prevent the cabal to conquer us? How can we prevent the military to step over us and kill us and what have you? So what are our alternatives? That's what the people are interested in to learn. So,
well, the alternatives are the consciousness level is increasing on the planet. More and more people are waking up, and as Matt said, more and more people are walking away. And we are seeing that. People are beginning to, the veil is lifting, and people are beginning to see what's going on. We were told 2 years ago that all this stuff will be out in the actual media, that it's the stuff now that I'd never seen, I never thought would be out in the media is coming out. And especially over here in Ireland and in the UK, where they're coming out on TV blatantly saying cannabis oil cures cancer, and they're having people on. And there was a big uproar from people saying, why isn't this made legal? Why can't people get this? So there's a massive movement on, and people are beginning to wake up, and that's it. All we need is the trigger. That's all we need,
I think the extremism of the left in our world will trigger its own demise, because as people wake up, they will see the absurdity of it all. This is my hope, anyway. That like with this walk away movement. Because of the absurdity of it all, they're just going to say, well, I'm not taking this anymore. And then hopefully cross over to, a point where they're conscious, awake, and making decisions for themselves versus following what they're told to believe. It was interesting. I saw this segment on Fox News the other day where prior to the new nominee for the Supreme Court was announced, a guy went to a college in New York and interviewed college students and asked them their opinion on Donald Trump's pick of the Supreme Court. And just every single one of them said they were so against it, and he's such a racist. Why would he pick such a Nazi or whatever, kind of comments like that? And no one had picked anyone as a nominee yet. They were reacting based on what they've been programmed to say when confronted with questions like that. And it's amazing, the groupthink. But I think because of the absurdity that people like Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi espouse, it's going to turn against them. It's going to make more people aware and awake. And how do we get out of it? Just let the course of nature take place and listen to shows like ours.
Yeah, and Michael, what's your point of view?
Well, I think we have to establish the human connection, because that's the only thing we've got. Solidarity towards our fellow human beings. And despite all the facts, we should be aware that all these migrants are human beings too. And with the more advanced ones, one should get together and discuss the issues. And maybe they have an influence on the whole other group to teach them and make them aware that they're being led by this cabal and fooled around. And once they realize that they've been fooled as well as the rest of the population, maybe then something can be done to ease the situation and get the cabal out of the rule. We have to get rid of the cabal. Basically, that's it. I mean, it's easy said, but I know.
Yeah,
But,
didn't we discuss this just today or yesterday? Michael, that we were thinking of how could we get rid of these guys peacefully?
Yeah, that's a matter of fact. I was discussing, maybe I shouldn't say that, but we had a group of people over here last night, and they were very, outspoken about the issue. And they said, well, the cabal, that is the main cause of the thing. And what would they do with the corrupt judges and the corrupt politicians? And some of these people said we should do them in. And I heavily opposed that kind of thought. I said, nevertheless, they're human beings and cannot do like this. And if you want to create a world, a new world with new harmonious laws, and you start by killing off people, it will be worse. The new world will be worse than the old one.
Indeed. I think we use the United States Constitution as a model. If we can, the main thing to do is to get the money out of the hands of the private banks and put it back into the hands of the government, as was designed by the Constitution of the United States. You do that, then the power doesn't exist with the Rothschilds and the royal families and the Rockefeller types. Then the nation is then able to produce real wealth, and then people can have much improved lives. But with this current system, we're enslaved via the taxes and the debt system. It'll be hard for us to start new societies without that foundation being removed.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to recreate the economy. You have to think about money, how to do that. Organize it. Actually, I say I would live in a society without money. That is possible. It's not impossible. In heaven, there is also no money. You get what you deserve according to your degree of development. That's the way it's being done in the spiritual realms. So it should be also on earth. And I think we can create a world of harmony if these people don't take away 90% of the people's fruit of labor. That's what they're doing.
True.
Yeah, it's all down to scarcity. And this is why they play the game with oil and everything else. We have to stop the scarcity game, and that's what they're doing. Is the scarcity game. The whole idea of not having money, that will happen in time. Maybe not in our lifetime, but it will happen. We have to get there. But what we have to do is, and it's something that we've talked to other people about, is that there needs to be, people talk about this RV and the RV coming, and we're all going to have 5 million in our bank accounts. That is not going to happen for the simple reason is logistically, it would drive the markets and the financial system and everything else. Society would go nuts. The only way to solve it logically is to say, right, if funding comes available, that groups are set up where they're groups, there are people who want to work at the thing they want to work at and they're getting paid. And then that in turn over time improves the GDP of the country, because at the moment we're all on a recession. Austerity is in, nobody has money. So what we need to do is get people back working, but in the jobs that they want to do, and pay them a good wage for doing it. So because there's loads of people working in jobs that they don't want to work in that job, but they have to do it because they have to pay the mortgage. So what if they were given the choice to say, right, what job would you like to do? What would you like to work at? And they get paid for doing that job. Whether it's maybe music or whatever, or somebody likes doing making stuff, or they want to get into. So it's an investment into that person. And the other two things myself and Steve talked about today, which need to be done really, is one, all drugs to be legalized, because when you legalize all drugs, the drug dealers have nothing to sell. So they go away straight away. And then legalize prostitution. When that is legalized, because that's the oldest game in the world, and supply and demand, it'll always be there. So why not legalize it like some places in America and in Europe, and then have a proper system where the girls, if they want to do that job, that they're checked medically and everything's all above board. That would get rid of all the, the pimps and all that. So that would straight away do a level of put away the people committing crimes. And maybe there should be a way that people should get money given to them. I know some places in Switzerland, I think they were talking about a Detlev, where they're given a sum of money. Each person is given a sum of money. And if they want to work, they can. If they don't, then they'll get a sum of money. That will stop an element of crime as well.
Yeah, that's the idea of basic income.
Yeah.
At a certain level, here it is discussed to be 2,500 Swiss francs, which is about $2, I guess. Now,
who's paying for that, though? I mean, think about that. That's unsustainable. Somebody has to pay for that. You can't just manufacture the money out of nothingness.
No, if you think about the current system, it's a debt-based system. And who do we owe to? It's
central banks.
Right. So it's the kabar which we owe to. If you redistribute the money, the values that they have gathered to everybody, there's no more debt. So the debt is basically abolished. And once the debt is abolished, you can basically start off new. And then you can develop something like, you don't even need a money system. You may have an exchange system, but you can fix the value. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be gold and silver, which is limited in its resources. It's basically human being.
Time banking, energy.
Yeah, or it's like the current strawman idea. So everybody gets a certain budget, on each head, and they can spend it.
I think on a smaller scale, ideas like that work. But when you work on a larger scale, say like a military defense contractor selling, $5 billion in tanks to Saudi Arabia, how do you pay for that? I mean, you got to have some medium of exchange. So you're going to have some kind of monetary system there.
Yeah, but why do we need military then anymore? Because if the wealth is distributed amongst all of us, there's no need for wars anymore. The wars.
No, it's true, but it always occurs that somebody over the hill will want your stuff, and he'll come over and get it, and arm up and ride into your town with horses, elephants, or tanks to come take what you got, and now you're his subject. It always happens to people like that in humanity. So you have to be able to protect yourself somehow.
Well, if they don't have the tools, if they don't produce them products and them tanks don't exist, everything's gotten rid of, then at the end of the day, and if there are people who are doing that, well, they need to be locked up.
Well, I mean, that's Genghis Khan didn't have tanks. He had horses and a lot of men with a lot of firepower for the time. So, I mean, there's always going to be people like that in the world, regardless.
But we're also talking about a consciousness level.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot just do this without thinking about the consciousness level. If we are raising our consciousness level everywhere, then, there's an equal consciousness, sort of. Maybe it's a certain time which is needed in between. It's a time frame we're talking about. It's not overnight. But
I like the idea. I sure like the idea. Yeah. I'm with you.
And that's
but you have to look at it pragmatically,
Yeah, but this is why these energies are coming in, or people are feeling them, and and having this effect. Everybody's talking about it. Maybe that's what needs to happen to get us to the next level, so we can get away from that 3D thinking, because that is 3D thinking. We need to be 5D thinking. And that's what we need to do. We need to get to that 5D thinking. Move away from 3D thinking. The 3D thinking is scarcity, divide and conquer, and all that that's all 3D thinking. And maybe this wave will change so we have some 5D thinking.
So let's check our watches. On August 1st, this might be a different world, or you might wake up and have, toast and eggs for breakfast again.
Hey, who knows? But this is the whole thing. This is the great way of entertaining it all, and talking about it and saying, look, how many times, as I say at the start of the show, how many times have dates come and gone? It's happened over the 8 years. So we don't dwell and we don't say it's going to happen. For entertainment value only, we're talking about it.
Sure.
But I'd like to think maybe there's a divine power or creator, and Michael, you can jump in here. Divine power energy creator, source energy, who is implementing these energies, or something's happening to change what's going on. Michael.
Yeah, I think we definitely need enlightenment, and we need education, and we need to really put our energies and efforts into that, to educate people about morality of the world, the morality of the cosmos. The whole cosmos is built up basically cosmic morale and ethics, and that ethics is interconnected with our existence, with our being, and so without morale or ethics, nothing will grow, nothing will work. The whole creation is basically the engine of our creation, and once people realize it, that contact towards a respectful contact towards creation and towards our fellow human beings, then I think we have a chance to lead this evolution in a positive way. So as I said, we have to talk to these people, approach them, and the few which are not sensitive towards it, there we have to find a solution where to maybe, as they said yesterday in that discussion that I mentioned before, to separate them somewhere, put them on an island, and there they have to learn either to hit each other's head or to learn some sort of a cooperation, which then also they learn to understand that without cooperation, without solidarity, it doesn't lead anywhere but to plain destruction.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, we've a few minutes left.
Yeah.
Detlev, if you want to go around to everybody and get their take.
Just a last word to Michael's thoughts. There are lots of deserts on this earth which could be recultivated, and you just put a fence around it, and let them work there. Let them do
That's a fantastic idea. Let's put Merkel and May together in the desert.
Yeah, we don't need any cruelty down there. We just let them work there so they can live and learn. Okay. Yeah, so we are heading towards the end of the show. It was a great show again. I do thank everybody who's participating, and also our viewers and listeners. Later on, we will have rebroadcast after we have finished. So if you have missed something, stay tuned. We are rebroadcasting after a quick break. Then we will also have a video available on our various video channels. So please have a look there. And so let's have a round again. Why don't we start with Alan?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to pass it over to Steve. Steve has all the contact information about OIM. So, Steve, you want to wrap things up?
Okay, I'm just going to say, as Frank Sinatra said a long, long time ago, we need to start spreading the news. And maybe when we have a lot of awakened people, then the old majority will become the minority, and maybe the whole kit and caboodle might implode on itself without any bloodshed at all. No more wars. Anyway, be prepared. That's what we always say. Be prepared for any eventuality. We don't know if that's going to happen on July 31st. If it does, well, be prepared. Unless you're going to be, transported to some other realm, then if you're going to remain on the earthly realm, at least have some food and have some shelter and some light and all sorts of things. There's plenty of information on the internet on preppers and being prepared for eventualities. Anyway, myself and Alan are from Open Your Mind Internet Radio. We transmit every Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. GMT. We're on oymradio.com, and our email address is info@oymradio.com. So anyone who's listening to the broadcast this evening, if you want to contact us for any reason whatsoever, that is the email address to do so. And it's been absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed my time on the roundtable. I have to say, it's been the 2 hours have absolutely flown by, and it's nice getting to kind of obviously I knew Alan and Detlev. We've known each other as well. It's nice to kind of have a kind of bounce off Matt and also Michael as well. So it's been a pleasure and a privilege.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, I wanted to just add on that we are the creators of reality. I enjoyed the show today as well. It was very it was basically an enlightenment to talk to you guys all. And it's always a get together. With the Christ says when two or three people get together, I'm in the midst of us, and we feel that we are basically social human beings. We're social. We cannot live in solidarity, basically. And from that also comes good ideas. But each one of us has responsibility to create that everyday life in a harmonious way. The way we treat our fellow human beings, the way we treat all the people in the road, the way we treat animals, the way we deal with the plants. That is, we can create our own realities because we are basically reality creators. And from that reality, in a small scale, the big realities are being created, and we should be aware of it. And I want to refer to Gandhi, which he knew, of course, those spiritual principles. And I think when we try to heal a small spot within ourselves, the whole cosmos is being healed. And the good beings, the angels and so forth, they will help us doing that way. We have to just stretch out our hands.
Very nice said. Matt?
Yeah, thanks for having me on today. I enjoy my time with all of you. I feel so, like Steve said, privileged and blessed to share time with such enlightened folks. So thanks for the opportunity to share with time with you today, because for me, it helps keep me sane. Talking to folks like you helps me keep my sanity because of the insanity we see in our world. So this is kind of like therapy for me. My website is nwodor.com, nwodor.com. Go there to the podcast archive page and listen to all the interviews I've done. It's like a library of knowledge on health and the New World Order and a whole lot of other subjects. And I'm sure you'll find it interesting. I haven't been doing my normal once-a-month show for about a year now, and I've enjoyed the break. From doing that, I'm enjoying some time with an activity that I really like. I've started a new band, so I can't be a warrior all the time, like I've been for the last 25 years on the internet. But I do like my time here today with all of you and all of our listeners. And Detlev, thanks for producing. And unless everybody wants to do it with me, I'd like to close the show out with our normal shout. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Death to the new world order.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware there was a shout out. Okay, sorry.
No, you're indoctrinated now. No excuse next time, Steve.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot for participating. I'm Detlev of Wake News Radio, Wake News TV. You can look us up. All the links are available on our website, UnitedWeStart.org. And we will have now finishing song here by someone who sings free. And after that, we will have a bit music in between the ending of this show and the rebroadcasting. So stay tuned if you want to listen it again or are tuning in right now. This next show is taking place in August, and I'm hopefully not wrong if I'm saying it will be the 11th of August, and then we can discuss whether the timing which we discussed today took place. All right, so see you later. It's Detlev of Wake News Radio, Wake News TV. Cheers.
Join UnitedWeStart, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners in various topics. Join us every second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific time, which is 18 to 20 hours GMT. Join us. We're looking forward to meeting you.